September 2025, a total of 860,000 metric tons of maize, soybeans, sorghum, wheat, and sunflower had been sold formally, with a large proportion being marketed informally. The formal grain and oilseed intake is 437% above the intake recorded at the same time last year. The Grain Marketing Board's intake is 262% above last year's intake. The government of Zimbabwe has instituted interim measures to assist millers in accessing grain across the country. The Strategic Grain Reserve currently holds 140,000 metric tons of grains in stock as part of promoting value chain financing in terms of production in order to ensure food and nutrition security, and in terms of the government policy which was enacted in August 2020, millers are required to secure at least 40% of their raw material requirements through contract farming. Meanwhile, a total of 28.7 million kilograms of cotton had been sold to 6 contractors since the cotton marketing season started on 24 July 2025. This reflects a 108% increase above the volume marketed at the same time last year. Similarly, tobacco sales have reached a record 354.8 million kilograms as at the 18th of September 2025, compared to 231.8 million kilograms sold at the same time in 2024, translating to an increase of 53.08%. Tobacco seed sales are 11% firmer compared to the same time in terms of the duration of 2024, which augurs well for attaining the 2025-2026 production target of 360 million kilograms. The area planted in terms of irrigated tobacco is 60% above. The winter cereals plan is targeted 135,000 hectares, comprising wheat 120,000 hectares, barley 6,500 hectares, and potatoes 9,000 hectares, with an estimated 600,000 metric tons of production of wheat and 39,000 metric tons and 243,000 metric tons of barley and potatoes respectively. To date, 2,303 metric tons of wheat has been harvested from 426 hectares at an average yield of about 5 metric tons per hectare. Migratory pest control and surveillance continues across all provinces of the country, and the government of Zimbabwe would like to reassure farmers that there is enough manpower, vehicles, sprayers, and chemicals to respond to any outbreak. Cabinet also discussed the state of prices and availability of basic commodities for the period the 1st of April to the 31st of August 2025. The country continues to make good progress in the economic growth and stability and moving the economy up the value chain and structural transformation pillars in terms of the NDS1, as reflected in the report on the state of prices and availability of basic commodities for the period 1 April to the 31st of August 2025, which Cabinet considered. The report focused on 14 commodities, namely mealie meal, laundry soap, cooking oil, bread, sugar, flour, rice, bath soap, washing powder, powdered milk, eggs, beef, chicken, and salt. The current monetary and fiscal environment, which has been characterized by exchange rate stability, steady pricing, and increased availability of basic commodities, is playing a critical role in preserving consumer purchasing power. Notable feedback from the business community indicates a renewed sense of confidence, with several former retail operators reporting increased sales volumes attributed to enhanced compliance, fair trading practices, and improved market discipline, enforcement, and private sector interests. During the period, the official exchange rate was relatively stable. The task force on business malpractices has continued to question and confiscation of substandard products for destruction by authorities. Most retail outlets maintained adequate stocks of basic One Health strategic plan running from 2026 to 2030. The Zimbabwe National One Health strategic plan provides a roadmap for integrating human, animal, plant, and environmental ecosystems to address health challenges. The strategy aligns with Zimbabwe's Vision 2030, the National Development Strategy 1, priority areas, and international frameworks such as the Sustainable Development Goals, Africa Agenda 2063, and the One Health Joint Plan of Action. The strategy also seeks to strengthen collaboration across sectors to combat endemic and emerging diseases and other antimicrobial resistance and health impacts in terms of climate change. The implementation plan is structured around 5 key pillars, each with defined strategies, activities, timelines, and performance indicators. The pillars include the following: coordination, which entails of One Health threats through developing integrated surveillance systems, enhancing diagnostics, and implementing emergency response plans. Other pillars also include sustainable financing by securing dedicated and diversified funding to support long-term One Health initiatives, research and development, which entails an enhanced evidence generation and innovation capacity through integrated research and advocacy, communication and capacity building. Cabinet considered and approved the report on the responses to the concluding observations of the Committee on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination arising from Zimbabwe's combined 5th to the 11th periodic reports under the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination. Zimbabwe reaffirms its commitment to the principles enshrined in the international recommendations, including improved data collection, expanded access to justice, and enhanced public awareness efforts. The government of Zimbabwe continues to ensure that all forms of racial discrimination are eliminated. And Zimbabwe acknowledges that the challenges and the gaps that had been in existence have been addressed. Nevertheless, it remains resolute in addressing many other issues in a timely, transparent, and participatory manner. Continued collaboration with civil society, independent institutions, and international partners is essential to ensuring accountability and sustained progress. Zimbabwe welcomes ongoing dialogue with the committee and reiterates its dedication to building a more inclusive, just, and equitable society. Cabinet considered and approved the principles of the National Library and Documentation Services Amendment Bill, following the Cabinet decision made in 2018 which directed that some parastatals be absorbed as ministerial departments. The National Library and Document Services Department became a department under the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education. Accordingly, the amendment of the National Library and Document Services Act, Chapter 25.10, will give effect for NLDS to cease to be a corporate. The amendment also seeks to modernize its provisions by incorporating digital technologies, digital preservation, virtual platforms, and digital library services to enhance access to knowledge and information throughout Zimbabwe. Furthermore, the amendment seeks to ensure that the legal framework governing the National Library and Document Services remains relevant by aligning with the contemporary demands, international standards, and emerging best practices in library science. Cabinet received and noted the report on the Second Africa Climate Summit, which was held from the 8th to the 10th of September 2025 in Ethiopia. The Minister of Environment, Climate and Wildlife attended the Second Africa Climate Summit on behalf of His Excellency the President, Dr. Edim Mnangagwa. The summit was held under the theme Accelerating Global Climate Solutions and Financing for Africa's Resilient and Green Development. The summit, which was organized jointly by the African Union and the government of Ethiopia, built upon the inaugural Africa Climate Summit held in Nairobi, Kenya from the 4th to the 6th of September 2023. The Second Africa Climate Summit was preceded by Africa Climate Week and the 13th Climate Change Development in Africa conference held from the 1st to the 6th of September and the 5th to the 7th of September 2025, respectively, in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Zimbabwe attended the summit and the Climate Week in pursuit of its national interests, in line with Section 73, which provides a clear foundation for the government's efforts to address climate issues, mandating the nation to take reasonable legislative and other measures within the limit of available resources to protect environmental rights. The summit considered climate change challenges affecting the African continent, the current global climate discussions under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change and beyond, as well as the way forward for the continent. Furthermore, heads of state and dignitaries also considered practical homegrown, nature-based solutions and focused pathways towards enhancing Africa's adaptive capacity and climate resilience and reducing loss and damage associated with the adverse impacts of climate change. In remarks read on his behalf by the Minister of Environment, His Excellency the President, Comrade Edim Mnangagwa, pointed out that climate change presented a formidable and existential threat to the very foundation of Africa's development, ecosystems, health, and prosperity of its people. His Excellency highlighted the country's response to climate change and recommended the strengthening of international cooperation, guided by the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities. The President also urged the international community to move away from viewing Africa as a continent in need of aid and view it as a destination for investment, and called for the continent to value aid its minerals for the green transition rather than continue to export raw commodities. The major outcome of the summit was the Addis Ababa Declaration on Accelerating Global Climate Solutions and Financing for Africa's Resilient and Green Development. The declaration highlights the need for adaptation and resilience, access to adequate and predictable climate finance, to strengthen agricultural and food production systems, increase energy access and renewable energy, technology-based solutions, and the nexus between climate change impacts and peace and security. Cabinet received and noted the report on the second Africa Climate Summit, which was held from the 8th to the 10th of September 2025 in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. The Minister of Justice, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs attended the second Africa Caribbean Community Summit on behalf of His Excellency the President, Dr. Idi Mnangagwa. The summit was held under the theme Transcontinental Partnership in Pursuit of Reparatory Justice for Africans and People of African Descent through Reparations. The summit was preceded by the second African Caribbean Ministers of Health meeting, which was held from the 5th to the 6th of September 2025 in Ethiopia. The summit was organized into 3 thematic sessions focusing on the following key areas: transcontinental partnership in pursuit for reparatory justice for Africans and people of African descent, forging stronger relations between Africa and the Caribbean region, and the Africa CARICOM cooperation in the global arena, focusing on reform of international financial institutions and climate change. Under the plenary on transcontinental partnership in pursuit of reparatory justice for Africans and people of African descent through reparations, the Minister of Justice, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs called for the removal of illegal sanctions unilaterally imposed on Zimbabwe by some Western nations. The minister emphasized that reparations must go beyond financial compensation and include acknowledgement of dignity, historical pain, suffering, and ongoing legacies, as well as the need for a united front between the African Union and the CARICOM to pursue justice and reparations. The minister also emphasized the importance of fostering stronger Africa CARICOM cooperation for mutual economic growth and supported the establishment of joint reparations mechanisms. He further underscored the importance of representation and influence of Africa in international decision-making bodies, including the reform of the United Nations Security Council and the global financial architecture. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for presenting today's cabinet highlights. We now move to the first round of 3 questions, and we ask the ministers to respond to those questions. Yes.
Let's do the summer COVID season from 2025 to 2026. It has to do with the preparedness by the government to distribute inputs. We have had challenges in the past of late delivery of inputs. So my question is, what is it the ministry is going to do differently from other previous years that would guarantee timely delivery of input to ensure success of the agricultural season? And related to that, how prepared is the ministry to conduct cloud seeding in terms of funding and related requirements? Should there be inadequate areas? I think.
Thank you very much. Questions? to you, Minister.
Thank you, Chief Secretary. The two questions are to Dr. Masuka on the state of preparedness in terms of the 2025-2026 agricultural season, and the state of preparedness also in terms of cloud seeding in the event that there's a low rainfall pattern.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Zamaida Murwira Herald. I said to Zamaida Murwira the other day, you should ask questions before the post-cabinet briefing. He is quite interested in agriculture, and I thank you for the continued interest in agriculture, because that's, agriculture anchors our economy, so that interest is relevant and not misplaced. Government is very prepared for the summer season. We expect about 3.1 million hectares to be put to summer crops, and of that about just 3.1 million hectares will be put to summer crops, 1 million hectares will be put to Fumvudza, and the bulk of that will be maize, 400,000 hectares that we expect under maize, and then followed by sorghum at about 250,000, and also some millets at about 130,000 or so. And we have started mobilizing inputs in terms of the seed that's required, and it's moving now to the various GMB depots. We are also mobilizing fertilizers. In fact, we've enrolled more suppliers for fertilizers. You might be aware of the changes within the fertilizer industry. So, indeed, government is very, very prepared. This will extend to the cotton input scheme, where we have refined the distribution mechanism. And at last Friday's meeting, my interactive meeting, monthly interactive meeting with the Ministers of State for Provincial Affairs and Devolution in Mashonaland East, we all were looking at the progress that the Working Party had made in terms of mobilization of inputs. We emphasized that they should put in modalities for the distribution of the main PIP and also the cotton PIP, and we're very pleased with the mechanisms that they put in place, that they will expedite distribution of inputs. You will recall that the President has given additional logistics support to both the Agriculture and Rural Development Authority and the Grain Marketing Board in the form of trucks to be able to move inputs to far-flung areas, difficult to reach areas such as Binga, and I'm hoping that this year they will be able to receive inputs ahead of the rainy season. So yes, we are very prepared, and we'll be able to provide periodic updates on the distribution, and we don't foresee any problems. We are also going to trial out this year a new innovation to eliminate corruption in the distribution of inputs. You know that we ordinarily distribute this through ward-based committees chaired by the councillor, involving all village heads and all the government apparatus within the ward. But over and above that, we are going to overlay that with a card which is being developed by AFC. We've trialed that, and we see its distribution prowess in Kenya, where using this they've been able to eliminate or reduce corruption. So this is a card linked to a bank account, a card linked to your own identity, and a card with a facial recognition, and with all these biometric apparatus to enable us to give bona fide recipients of these inputs and eliminate and would-be corruption within that system. So that's what we put for this season. Any additional comments to try and strengthen the system will also be much welcome. Regarding cloud seeding, to preamble, that is to say that government now is issued through the Ministry of Environment, Climate and Wildlife the weather forecast, which was adopted by Cabinet, I think last week or so, and that weather forecast is very positive. Says the season is similar to last year, although there will be an erratic start to the rainfall season, with reduced rainfall in October, increasing into November, and by December we'll have normal to above normal rainfall patterns throughout the country, and we expect the season to last till March. So we'll have a growing period of somewhere between 90 days and 120 days. The agronomic advice based on that meteorological forecast is that you need to do short season crops and be able to do agroecological tailoring. But we do realize the importance of augmenting this with cloud seeding. Then cloud seeding can determine failure or success of a particular crop, especially in the case of maize. It is in that context that Cabinet, in its wisdom, formed an interministerial committee, which I chair, on cloud seeding. And this is 3 channels that we are investigating. First, we want to investigate newer technologies for cloud seeding. And then we are investigating the actual operational modalities. And thirdly, we are also looking at resourcing the cloud seeding. And the committee will be meeting later this week to try and go through the submissions by the working party and be able to recommend to Cabinet appropriately. But we do realize the utility of cloud seeding in enhancing rainfall and in ensuring that we have a successful season. But this must be part of a collective of measures that we implement for the summer season. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Questions? Clarification? Yes? Second bite.
Thank you very much. My other question is on the move by government to spread its thrust on reduction of prices and fees to different areas. The question is, how does government balance as it pushes that thrust of reducing price and fees of goods and services? How does it balance the desire to have fair prices and the need to allow market forces to determine prices? So that since the economy is more of a free market, in other words, as the government reduces price, is that not being done probably unilaterally? That in some instances probably that might harm business. So how does it strike balance? With the indulgence.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead and ask another.
There was also in the statement there was also talk about the ratio of equity government's commitment to that or something along those lines.
What's the actual question?
My question is, there have been complaints from against some members of community, probably Asian community, the way they are treating Zimbabwe leaders. The question is government aware what corrective action, if any, is being instituted to correct that in terms of ill treatment in a manner that is perceived to be along racial lines? Thank you.
Okay.
Any other question?
Hakuna umwele.
Over to you, Minister.
Thank you, Shamaida. But I guess your questions were not that clear, but I'll respond accordingly. I think the issue is about the review of pricing in terms of the fees, in terms of the permits, in terms of the levies that is ongoing, being coordinated by the Office of the President and Cabinet, and also by the Minister of Finance and Economic Development, and also the particular line ministry. There is a stakeholder consultation process that takes place as we review each and every price. This is in order to ensure that we ease the way of doing business in our country, in order to create a magnetic investment climate and also ensure that there is fair pricing by all citizens and also the business community. You recall that in our past two post-cabinet briefing sessions, we also indicated a number of reductions, which also includes changes in terms of number plates from $500 to $50, a number of reviews in the Ministry of Agriculture, in the Ministry of Tourism, in order to support the growth of the economy. So all this contributes to national development in our country. So I'm very confident that the review processes also include stakeholders that have been participating in each and every sector of the economy. But perhaps one of your other questions related to the Minister of Industry and Commerce, I'll refer the question to him. Then the second issue, I think, relates to discrimination. The Constitution of Zimbabwe guarantees rights to all citizens. It also guarantees rights to business people to be able to conduct their business within the laws of Zimbabwe. And I'm very confident that we have various pieces of legislation that support labor issues, such as the Labor Act, which guarantees negotiation and agreement as employees and employers discuss issues. The Criminal Codification Act is also there to ensure that those that are found foul or that violated the rights of other citizens can be dealt with. And we also have a fully functional and independent and impartial judiciary, which then dispenses the justice whether a person has been convicted, whether they've been acquitted, and the judicial processes. But we are more than confident that all these state institutions can guarantee the rights of all citizens of our country. If there are any other issues in terms of the report by the Minister of Justice, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs, we'll continue to review the laws and to strengthen the legal and policy capacity of our country in order to ensure that we continue to be in compliance with international law and many other institutions that we are party to, including the AU, SADC rules and regulations. So perhaps, Comrade Mangaliso Ndlovu, you could respond to one of the issues that is raised. But as I indicated that in terms of the dispensation, in terms of judiciary, we've done so much, including the integrated electronic case management system, expansion of judiciary institutions, and many other processes in order to support constitutionalism in our country. Comrade Ndlovu, perhaps you can respond to one of his worries.
Thank you, Chair of the session, and let me thank you for, I think, doing justice to the question. Zomaida, I will be lying if I say I understood exactly what you were asking.
Yeah.
But I think what I will just give is the context. It might clear what I think could be a confusion there. What we are doing as government, as the Minister has highlighted, is to interrogate the regulatory environment. In other words, what government would ordinarily be charging businesses as compliance to different institutions. That's what we are focusing on. We are reducing the number of licenses, we are reducing the cost or that you have to pay ordinarily in those. government is not setting prices for any company. I think that has to be clarified. The paper we presented today is an analysis of the period 1st of April to end of August of what's been prevailing in the market in terms of goods availability and the price movement. Then we are happy that our observation is that there's been very low inflation. In fact, for 3 months or so, it's 0% month to month. And the goods in our shelves are now predominantly locally manufactured up to 80%. It's simply an assessment of what is there. And we believe that as the reforms gather momentum, we will even see most prices coming down, because some of the businesses were highlighting that between 18 and 27% of their costs are coming from regulatory compliance fees. So there is no one who complains about this. Trust me, everyone is welcoming these moves that are taking place. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Comrade Ndlovu. I'm sure, Jamaida, we've clarified any other issues that you may have had, that the responses that we've received, that these reviews have contributed and will continue to contribute to the growth of our economy. Duplication of licenses has been one of the challenges, and it's been dealt with. Over to you, Dr. Martin Rushwai.
Thank you very much. Anyone who feels like asking additional questions before we call it a day? Honorable Ministers, thank you very much for responding to those questions. We've come to the end of today's post-cabinet press briefing.
You said, Chair.
Thank you.